What is up, you degens? Hope you're staying sexy. Tonight is June 1st, 2022. Or when you're hearing this, could be June 2nd, 2022. But we got a very special treat on this episode of Day Trading Diaries. It's episode 3. And I was originally going to go through a few different things like 50K challenge, some of the Elliott wave things that have been going on, and kind of talk about some swings. But we have a very, very special interview that went a lot deeper and a lot longer than I even expected. So, without further ado, a man that needs no introduction, the one, the only, Keanu Trades. Yeah. Yeah, so kind of going off of that, when you talked about how you started in Bueller and then you started going into and getting a little bit more traction and kind of a following. And originally, I met you through a different Discord where you had your own channel. Uh, Did it start? How did that kind of process start? Where you started out at Bueller? Like, how did that start, and when did that start?
So, but this guy was making big money. And so I start texting him. He's in our Discord. He's just not very active, probably because he already made a lot of money and stuff. But he's like, hey, join this guy Bueller. He's like the best. He's like, there's so many groups out there, and I'm gonna help you out because I'm gonna tell you the one that has helped me out so far the most. And I was like, perfect. So I got with Bueller, started listening and voice, started just taking it all in. I remember it sounding like another language. I'm like, I don't know what this dude's talking about. I
Yeah,
didn't know what a candlestick was. I was still on Robinhood with the lines, like legit. And
yeah,
the candlesticks on Robinhood are really shitty too, so that wasn't helpful. But Bueller would stream on TOS, and I was super intimidated with TOS because it's just not the most intuitive, user friendly.
yeah,
Um, I was on TradingView too on the website. I spent so many nights just trading. Like, there's a bunch of different ones, right? But I was listening to Bueller every day, taking it, as little as possible as I can, or as much as possible, but it was little. And then eventually, I just learned more and more. So he was like, "It's options," and he goes, "I've made 5 grand." I think he said like 8 times, and I'm like, "What the 8 times?" I mean, 5 grand for the year, and I would be like stoked because like I said, I was flipping $400 holding for 6 weeks, kind of thing, you know.
yeah,
So yeah, I just kept going with Bueller. Of course, I got into Atlas and PJ Matlock and Zach Morris, Hugh Henney. I watched a lot of the Gary Notorious alerts. He has a lot of good stuff on Twitter. He talks about volume, how volume precedes price, and things like that. That kind of aligned with what Bueller said. I made some money here and there with pennies, but overall got destroyed because I was not willing to wake up at 1 a.m. my time, 4 a.m. Um, I'm on the West Coast.
yeah.
I made some here and there, but I would definitely lose more. Offerings and such. I was just, I don't know.
And then at
I was
what point
hooked.
did you like really buckle down and decide to? Obviously, you don't do this full time, but you've made a name for
Yeah.
yourself. You started to grow a lot since I've met you in the beginning of the year. When did it kind of turn around for you and kind of click?
So I didn't trade Tesla for at least the first year. Maybe once, like I followed someone's trade, made $100, got out. You're so terrified of it. Tesla's like the big ball stock kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started dabbling in Tesla, that's when it turned a corner for me because I was like, all right, if I could, it was like if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I
Yep.
had two rules. I thought if I make 10 grand in profit doing options, and if I can trade Tesla, um, I feel like I like know what I'm doing, you know. And so I got to like 8,500, and I was telling Dodge, he's like, dude, we should start a service. And I'm like, I don't want to start a service because, I'm only gonna listen to dentists on how to take care of my teeth. All right. So if I don't have a success story to say, hey, I've done this, I don't have any right telling people what they should buy and stuff. So once I made 10 grand, I felt good about it, but I still didn't want to run a service. Um, People were just slamming my DMs. They're like, thank you so much. I made so much money. Do you have a Discord? No. Do you have a Discord? No. Join Bueller, join Mommy Trades. And, there was other groups at the time, like Diamond Options. So I was referring people out, and they were telling me like, hey, dude, I'm going to give you, that's why I'm in all these services, because like I would give them so many members.
Yeah.
So yeah, people, dude, I was just getting flooded with like, I made so much money. Look, I'm in Mexico thanks to your Tesla Roku calls. And so eventually I was just like, I told Dodge, if you run the back end of it, like, paperwork wise, I will put my plays in a Discord.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not gonna, people's PayPal's get declined and crap. And I'm like, dude, I literally don't care. I just want
Yeah.
to like look at charts. So yeah, it took me at least 2 years with Bueller. The first year, dude, I was just soaking it in. Like you said, you're 5 months in. Like to be charting and stuff on your own, 5 months in, I was not doing that 5 months in. Period. Like just no.
Yeah.
Like I was on Robinhood for at least 6-7 months, maybe 8.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't that long, but I mean, I don't even think Weeble was out then, was it? So
I
I was
don't think
trying to
so.
do TOS. Yeah. So I mean, your like learning curve is way more accelerated than mine is, and I respect your hustle because I'm pretty obsessed both feet in. Because once I started, because me and Dodge had a thing where it was like $100 a day,
Yep.
and we would sometimes hit that by 6:40 a.m. our time. Sometimes I wouldn't hit it until power hour. And I still remember this time I was on a fat losing streak, and I broke it because one day I was green $28, and I told him like $28, dude. I will take $28 any day over a red day.
Yep.
And so I was red. Must have been 10 days, 12 days, 2 weeks. It was insane to the point of like, I'm not gonna say quitting, but to the point of
It's
like I need to take
demoralizing.
a break. So demoralizing.
Yeah.
And I was putting in the work, and I was like, dude, what is up with this? And then I still remember I made $28, and from then I had consistent gains ever since. And I thought to myself, if I would have like quit, I guess that would have been it. So, yeah, my buddy's out of Bueller. Like I said, he's with us. He does construction up north, Northern California.
Yep.
But he told me his story. He's like, okay, I started with this much money. I think it was like 5 grand, and he's like, I'm up to 30 grand, and my mind was just blown, like, because this guy dropped out of my high school.
Yeah.
And
then so you started having all these testimonials basically of people hitting you up in the DMs and being like, hey, thanks so much for this call. I'm in Mexico. I've grown my account XYZ. You got Dodge. And,
I remodeled my kitchen. Thank you so much. Thanks, Roku.
And so, yeah. And then so you had Dodge handle the back office things. You were kind of still putting your stamp of approval, putting your calls into a Discord. But the biggest thing that I noticed, at least when I first, joined your Discord, because I like I said, I met you through a different one, was your Discord is a very different vibe than I would say like a traditional, stock option or financial quote unquote Discord where, you know, especially for people that are not in or have a history or traditional background in the finance or, you know, business side of things, it's not as intimidating. It's a little more welcoming. Was that
Yeah.
kind of something that you were aiming to do, or was that just kind of happened organically?
Um, you know, I just heard so many horror stories of scams. Like, I bought this course. Okay, so one of the first things I Googled was Timothy Sykes. Not Googled, but came across. And he has commercials, and once you're on FinTwit, you get ads and all this stuff. And his courses are expensive, like 2,000, 5,000. And I didn't know anything. And I'm like, dude, I'm willing to pay anything if I could print my own money. I never did, but so I heard about that. Somebody else was just like, I lost $5,000 to a scammer, 2,000 to a scammer, and I'm thinking to myself, how do you, how would you even scam somebody? I guess take your money and then don't produce it on the back end. Um, but my thing is like, I do not want anyone to feel ripped off,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, I'm a teacher, so my background is teaching. I have a master's in teaching. My bachelor's is in communications, so um, I should be able to formulate my thoughts and convey them. Originally, when I started the Discord, I thought, okay, I'm going to use Edpuzzle and Nearpod, which are two teaching tools, to teach options. And I'm like, once I have this stuff set up, it should be able to make passive income.
Yeah.
Like, people take themselves through this. Now, Bueller made a course right when I kind of had that idea, and it's better than what I would put together. And so I think my strength is being like, I can't do that as good, so I'm gonna like piggyback on with him. And I said, hey, can I, sell your course? You give me a small percentage, like you did all the work, but like I can't sell something knowing there's something better out there. I just can't. And he's all, yeah, no problem. So some people come through and they join ours. I'm like, someone's only gonna benefit.
Yeah.
I have, if someone has LA Fitness and 24-hour fitness, great. Like maybe one of them has a swimming pool, one doesn't. It comes down to you and what you're gonna learn, and like you kind of really went off with your golden goose and all this stuff, and I'm like, put it in this channel so that number one, it doesn't get lost in the chat. Somebody can just go to your channel and see it, and you kind of have your own sandbox, and people can say, hey, this is helping me out. Maybe you scrap it and go to a new whole thing. But like I said, sandbox, because you weren't doing golden goose like before. You were doing whatever you were doing, and once you kind of emerge as your own trader, um, I don't know what that's going to look like. It could be golden goose and patterns. Like I don't know what it is, but Bueller's system is mostly scalping and
Hmm.
smaller trades. He uses, pre-market levels, yesterday's high of day, and he will take like the pre-market high break with volume, and at yesterday's high of day, he'll cut and maybe leave a runner, and that works great. And then I've kind of added my style, like which I play a little bit heavier. And so it's like using mine. Everybody puts their own stamp onto something, and that's just what I've tried to do. I don't know what it's called, but I definitely do heavy, as you know, volume divergence
Yeah.
plays. Um, a big turning point for me was I used to click through like 25 to 40 tickers a day. So stuff is moving, and I'm typing in NKE, Nike, Boeing, Disney, and I'm just clicking, 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 and I'm thinking like, which chart has the little diamond in the rough, and I'm gonna find it. And then I found myself chasing, AMD or some chart I wasn't exactly familiar with. And once I was like, all right, this week I'm just gonna play Roku. I'm just gonna play Facebook, Apple, whatever I picked that week, like two tickers. I was just so much more profitable because I would just wait for falling wedges, wait for cup and handle, wait for whatever. And I'm like, if you sit on a chart that has any sort of ATR, average true range, like Tesla's is like 50 or 70, you're gonna have opportunities. And if you don't, maybe you take a walk, and the next time you're up, you can swing hard. That's kind of how that emerged. So
Yeah. And going off of that, I had in my notes here, like obviously, like when I first started, you send out your yeah, kind of your playbook and what makes you your keys to success on your style. Like you said, you kind of have your own trading language that you put and you make it comfortable for yourself. But you have said and always really preached the idea of a major confluence factor for you is the volume divergence, and then also you mentioned that you call yourself a pattern hunting trader. Now, what kind of made you comfortable with the pattern side of things as kind of your foundation of your trading style?
I mean, I went back and reviewed trades, and the thing that made me the most money and the highest success rate was when I played off of patterns. We have these days where things will just drop, level, right? Maybe pit stop level. If it doesn't make like a bear flag, though, I don't feel 100% comfortable getting in. I will get in, but I will not get in with a full position. Um, but I was like, all right, that play was a rising wedge. That play was a symmetrical triangle, ascending triangle, which we haven't seen a lot of because when the market is dropping, you don't see a lot of ascending triangles. That's more of
Mm-hmm.
a bull market thing. We see descending. Um, so in my notes, the last 2 weeks or a month of me doing really well, I just saw it was always um, those patterns, and then I started looking for that. So, um, maybe it's like a batter that's like, all right, I do really well with curveballs, so they're gonna try and fight off fastballs, make the pitcher throw a curveball, so that they can get something in their wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So Jordan, like, he started seeing patterns before me, or I would go to post it and he already posted it.
yeah,
So that was kind of huge for me because I never had anybody who would consistently like out pattern hunt me, I guess you could say.
yeah,
And the fact that he was like 19, I was like, dude, like you need to work with me, please. So yeah, I just don't feel comfortable when something is just like rocketing up levels. I'm like, dude, with my luck, I get in and it reverses. Like,
yeah, yeah, and
so that's
and
kind of how that happened.
yeah, that kind of goes off of like the psychology of the trading, which I find fascinating. Where with my luck, it'll reverse or it'll do the opposite of what I think of, and you really have kind of figured out a way to kind of have your checklist. I kind of call it before you get into a trade, and you kind of mentioned that when you're going through your notes, when you feel comfortable, you're looking at your notes, being like, okay, I'm most successful at my pattern trading and whatever pattern it may be. But when you're going through and reviewing your trades and you're writing down your notes, what are you writing down? Is this kind of like a journal that you're just going through and kind of just reviewing it and your P&L, or are you really kind of getting through the detail and the nitty gritty to kind of doing a scouting report basically, or film review? Like what does that kind of look like for you?
Um, I definitely review the trades and think what was the rationale. Like this morning, Tesla broke a little bit of an ascending triangle. Yeah, a little bit of an ascending triangle with the wicks, and it popped up and immediately got rejected. We should have done puts. But when I look back at the candle bodies, it was more of a rising wedge on lowering volume. We should have identified it for puts right away. And that was
Yeah.
just this morning.
Yep.
Um, I look back, I'm always scrolling back. I haven't used TOS on demand too much because I just kind of scroll back and look and put a line and look at where my entry exit would have been. But I've heard that TOS on demand is really good, which I don't know if TradingView has it, but you can go back in time to like this morning or Monday and
Yep.
play
Kind of
calls or stuff like
replay.
that.
Yeah, you can replay
Yeah,
kind of the day
like
and
watching game film. So I like to go back to the morning because we're watching one candle, two candle, and I will put my screen all the way over and see 1, 2, 3. I'm just like sliding it over where my entry would have been. Um, Bueller stresses the volume, and I know people that don't even look at volume. Like that guy Jake that posts for TrendSpider every day. He doesn't
yep.
even have volume on his chart, period. And yesterday or today, I was just like, I would love to see this chart with the volume though, because like he has every chart right now broke out of the wedge and it's curling. Like everybody this weekend was posting this is curling, that's curling. I'm like, everything is curling, and everything yesterday and today has back tested that top trend line of the curl. So we either bounce off of it tomorrow, or we could ride that trend line down more. And it's gonna bounce off. I don't see it falling back into the wedge. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, but you could see where it's happening if you cover the chart and just put volume. You could be like, okay, what happened here? It's just like being in a car and you only watch the gas pedal. And you're like, okay, he's pushing the gas pedal. What's going to happen? Yeah, we're going to speed up or what, you know. So the volume is the gas pedal. And when you hit these key points, if it's lower in volume, you know it's not going to break. It's not possible. Resistance has to be broken with rising volume. It's just how it works. You're going uphill, you're busting through a wall, you have to have volume. So when that volume isn't there, boom, we get into puts. That's just, kind of one thing we do. When you have these confluence points, but it's on lowering volume, it's going to reject it, So um, volume has been like kind of everything.
Yeah. And I mean that's probably the most incredible analogy I've ever heard about volume with the car and the gas pedal. That was awesome. But with that being said, we kind of went through this last week where everything that you see on the chart tells you one thing, and then the opposite could happen, or you're never going to be 100% on charts, or how you're looking at your TA and whatnot. When those types of things happen, what's going through your mind, or what do you tell people, when they're like, well, there was no volume and it's just consistently rising, like this should have came back down, but it's just next level up, next level up. What's going through your thought process at that point? Are you just taking a step back?
I mean, yes, definitely taking a step back. Um, you're if you draw those resistance points, anywhere that there's consolidation up is going to be like a resistance point. Like some previously failed bear flag, you get a rally. I'm sorry, a drop base drop. Well, that base is now a resistance, right? It was support. It lost support. So if you're drawing your lines correctly, um, price will pit stop in those areas. And what I like to do is, if let's say Tesla, right? Tesla closed today at like 740, 730, I don't know, something like that. So let's say 750 is resistance because it's a psych number, and let's just say if that's my target, I want to get out. I don't want this game of hot potato. I don't want to be the one standing there with my dick in my hand.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get out at 748, 50, 749, 20. Uh, if my target is 749, my limit sell, let's say if I'm doing shares, is 748, 90, 95. In my
Yeah.
mind, everyone else is getting with that, and with I when I first started, I used to miss fills by like a penny or a dollar, and I'm like, I'm not gonna miss it. Like I'm gonna be the first one out as soon as it starts to do that. So, but if the volume comes in, especially if it's buying volume, people are getting out and I'm riding through the resistance. And I'm like, it's rising volume. Why would I get out? So, like with volume, you don't have to guess, is it going to break or not? Like I'm like, the volume's rising. If the volume's lowering, it's not going to break. Um, and like volume's lowering here. Hello, the gas pedal isn't down. Like it's not going to break it. It's just, it does happen sometimes, like you said. But if it does happen, to me, it just proves that wasn't a big resistance level. And sometimes you have a stock that's like, you were like, I don't have any, it has room down to 700 and it's 730. Well, for some random reason at 711, 708, it catches support and goes up. Why? Because charts support and resistance is based on the past. And you have new buyers coming in, and people could just decide, the algos could decide too, that I'm not going to let it go past 708. Let's just say. So that previous support and resistance is based on previous buyer psychology. So if Tesla has, good news or Momo's in on it for whatever reason, it's not going to drop as much. It's just not.
Yeah.
So I always try to be, a little bit early. Either way, it's tough to be early with patterns because, like, if you have a falling wedge, you just don't know where it's gonna pop up at. I'm like, okay, lowering volume. The safest play is to wait for the volume to come in as it's breaking out of the wedge. But if you really want to be like a top-notch trader, like you think you're ready for this, you can start adding the wedge now. Look, the candles are losing momentum. Let's say the candle bodies are getting smaller and smaller. Volume is lowering and lowering. That means it's becoming more of a fight for bulls and bears, especially if SPY is like in an uptrend.
Yeah.
That falling wedge is going to pop. I don't know when. That's why I say scale in and scale out. 2, 4, 6, 8. Maybe you're like, all right, my full position is 6 contracts. 2, 4. Oh, it popped. I didn't get the last 2. All good.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. And you mentioned a few things also about whether there's news or Momo or the algos. When you're going through your process and you're opening up the charts each day, you obviously are setting your key levels, and you're looking back, on the previous days or months or whatever it may be. How much are you kind of intaking or letting news kind of affect your decision making throughout the day? Is that kind of a big part of what you're looking at? Whether, like, do you look at flows? Do you
No,
look at algos or news?
nope. I do look at algos, but algos are seasonal, and this is my personal opinion. So, someone's going to listen and say, that guy's wrong. You know, algos are seasonal. They don't always work. Sometimes they work just like if the trading ticks algos are up, you're like, oh, sweet. I have a falling wedge and the algos are bullish. I'm going to get in. Sometimes if I have a falling wedge, everything's coming together and the algos are bearish. I'm like, I still will play it. I won't base a trade entirely on that algo, entirely on the trading ticks algo. It's a helpful confirmation. Sometimes I'm looking at it all day. And sometimes I don't look at it for months because I just, don't care. And
Yeah.
honestly, you look at more stuff when you're struggling. You're like, okay, let me add some flow. Let me add some this. Let me add some that. Do you remember on a Major League, the movie, when he's
Yep.
like, Toronto needs a chicken because he's in the slump?
Yep.
Well, if he's not in a slump, he doesn't need a chicken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think you can overthink it for sure. And I always post that YouTube of infiltrate the dealers, find the supplier. Simple. And that's because price action and volume. Simple. That's it. Just the
Yeah.
volume confirms the price action. Like you said, sometimes it'll drop all day. Like today, I swung Tesla because we have lowering volume on the daily chart. Um, Basically an inside bar from the bullish price action from Friday. We're still inside that. So I think this lowering volume sell today is on top of that trend line we were talking about, and it
Yep.
closed over the 9. So we have lowering price. It closed over the 9 EMA, which is 724.63. It closed at 740. It's about 734 after hours. So it could go to the downside, but we're going to get some sort of pop. And this pop is either exit your play, even, or we really fly to like 780, 90, 800.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a good play. The algos were on the bullish side. That's not why I took the play, but anyway, that's
Yeah.
like a classic swing play that we will take.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I did the same thing with a few Tesla calls, but so, like,
Good.
yeah. So when
See,
yeah, I'm trying to learn. I'm also a degenerate. That's kind of my go-to.
I'm
But
at 750 calls. I mean, my strike isn't crazy. I know some people that took some 800s. That's just too far out of the money for me.
yeah,
Um,
which is kind of what I was going to ask you next, because I feel like a lot of the people that at least I'm initially targeting are going to be having smaller accounts, like like myself, where I'm trying to do this challenge, but that may not be able to play those big Tesla contracts that are closer in the money. Like, what outside of like SPY, like, do you think it's a good idea for people to do out of the money plays with like Tesla, or what's your feeling on that? And why don't you like it being that far out of the money?
so The further out of the money you are, the smaller your window for profits. You know, if Tesla moves up, any stock moves up, your option is going to go green, but it's going to go red even faster. They're so the risk is exponential on out of the money. And so you want delta. Like I'm looking at the option chain for let me talk about something else besides Tesla for once. Okay, so it says Apple closed at 148.71. The contract 148 that's in the money is the delta is 0.5017, so 0.50. The one strike out 49 is 0.40, then 0.31. Now the 152.5 strike, right? That's only a few dollars out. 0.13. So it's 13 basically, and two strikes up is 0.4. So the delta, two strikes closer to being at the money. Let's see, 13, 26, and then what? About 40, right? 30, 26 plus, yeah, 40. So your delta is 3x by buying 149 instead of the 152. So you have 3 times the delta exposure. And by the way, the 155 strike is 0.04. I mean, it's wildly different because your delta would have to 3x just to get from the 155 strike to the 152.5 strike. Now, it can, like, your out of the money contracts, they have the opportunity to exponentially gain because it's a low probability of hitting. So in the money or at the money, right? One strike out, whatever.
Yep.
Delta's higher. You're paying for that though. Okay. Delta's higher. But if you mess up the timing a little bit, you know, instead of a spike candle, now it's more of a consolidation, or you're like, shit, I didn't really get the spike. Now it's wicking on a retrace. Those out of the money contracts are red, dude. They are red. But closer to in the money, Delta's still very high. It can wick out and you can, you know, small green or even because Delta is so high. You're still close to that being in the money. But when Delta is small, it's like pennies versus dollars. It's just not enough. Now, you get in low on Delta like I did on my big Tesla day. I rolled into out of the money because I'm like, this chart really has room down. I'm going to roll right now my profits on at the money puts, and I put 650 bucks into out of the money, right? And if the trade went against me, I could have just broken even and I'm out of both calls and, you know, I'm even, right? I think it's okay to break even every single day and have green some days. Like to me, that's okay. Cause I would rather do that than scalp 40 bucks. Like I'm not here to make $40. I'm just not.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So I had just my success just because I was doing out of the money too. I'm like, dude, they're so cheap. I can get 40 Apple calls for da da da. Well, Apple doesn't move $14 a day. You
yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you mentioned that, and I love this. You're not here to make $40 a day, which I
Nope.
love. What
That's true.
is your end goal? Do you have an end goal, or is this just something that you see as another source of income? Because like I've always
Um,
felt like that you need more than one source of income to be successful and
dude,
comfortable.
when you
Like,
when you say that, I just am nodding my head. I'm driving, listening to you, and you're like, you have to have multi streams of income, and I'm just like, yes. I've always wanted that. Teaching, I make good money, but it's set. You know,
mhm.
I try and be the best teacher I can be. I want the students to be like, you know, he's the teacher that's helped me the most. I just had students that graduated from Dixie State, and they're like, "You inspired me to be a teacher," and all this. It just fills my heart. It's like, it's so fulfilling. It's amazing. Um, but at the same time, like, I want to take my family on vacation. You
Mhm.
know, um, if I ever, I don't think I would ever buy like a Lamborghini. I would probably rent it because I just don't see the point. I just don't. Um, my son has autism. I really want to get him like the best care possible. We're
Yep.
we're doing at the end of this month a workshop for him. This behavioral thing. It's all out of pocket. Um,
That's amazing.
you know, I can't pay for that with my teaching salary.
Yeah.
Like I just can't. House payment. I don't have an extra $1,200 lying around to do that workshop.
Yeah.
So, but
There's always going to be another thing that you feel like you want to be able to provide.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. My I've heard students are like, I want to do cheer, and my parents say no. And God bless them. Their parents probably work 3 jobs, and you know, I don't know, work for the post office and then Amazon, and they're never home, and they still can't do cheer. And these people work so damn hard. My heart goes out to them. Um, and so having my son, who's now 4, just lit a fire under me to be like, I never want him to be limited. I have amazing insurance. Like, it's all in my head. We're not limited,
Yeah.
but in my mind, I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like that's why I was like, I should just like reward myself, which I've never done. I don't even wear a watch. I don't have an iWatch. I don't have, my big splurge is I don't know if you know Rainbow Sandals in New
Yep.
Jersey. Oh,
Yep.
okay. So I live like about an hour away from the Rainbow headquarters in San
Okay.
Clemente, California. And so I'll drive down there every, 3 years or so whenever I need new ones and buy like the best sandals they have. The best leather. They're like, this is elk leather or something. I don't even know. I'm like, I wear sandals so much, that's what I'm doing. That's my splurge, right?
I
But
love it.
if there's some specialist at UCLA for my son, like I'm not gonna start a GoFundMe. Like I I'm gonna trade.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it became for me. So
Yeah, there's always going to be something, and I feel like, at least for me, and it sounds like for you too, the biggest fear for me is being complacent. I hate
yeah,
being complacent and being okay with just and content. I think being content is the scariest place you can be in life. I
yeah,
think there's always needs to be that next thing, whatever it is, whatever your motivation is. Um,
absolutely. I don't get complacency, accepting mediocrity. I just don't get.
yeah.
Um, you
So
know,
I got because
so
I know we're already at like 45 minutes, and I don't want to take up too much of your night, but um, I
I'm
all right. So I got a few questions for you on because
so
obviously,
um my major was communications, and my like classmates in college, they went into sales, teaching. A lot of them went into sales,
yep,
and I'm not like a salesman at heart. Like I know you do sales, um, but I mean I guess I'm in sales now. What I loved about sales is just there's unlimited potential, unlimited. And I will never bug people and be like, yes, I post like join us. This guy made this much money. But if people are like, no, I don't do trading, that's the end of it. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
like
Well, you've done a few. Well, first of all, my family is a family full of teachers. So I have like 3 or 4 generations of teachers. I didn't go that route,
mm,
but I think teachers are the best salesman in the world because you have to convince kids that what you're telling them is important enough to listen and pay attention.
yeah,
And then,
I
but
agree.
two with teaching or not even teaching but selling, you say join us and but you really don't do too much marketing because like you said, your testimonials and people kind of having that organic conversations where you grew organically, but also the Discord has grown organically pretty rapidly just based on
Yeah,
peer-to-peer conversations and people kind of giving you praises
mhm,
outside of you posting it yourself.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
huge.
yeah. I visited my grandpa in Utah. When was this? March. And my cousin, I've been trying to get him to trade with us, and he's all like, "Yeah, I told my roommate I'm gonna go visit my cousin. He's in town. He's actually like he has a small following on Twitter for stocks and stuff." And he's like, "Oh, who is it?" And he's like, "Oh, I know who that is." And he's like, "My roommate knew who you were." And I have like 6,000 followers. It's not 10, 20, 1,000. And I mean, he could be lying. Why would he lie? I don't know. But I was like, that's kind of cool, I guess. That's sweet.
Yeah.
So
It is.
I want 10,000 followers. I feel like that's like um, five a five figure like validation point. Twitter doesn't let you do certain things until you have 10,000. Um, After that, I kind of don't care. I will say though, every time like once I got to 3,000, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Five now six. I'm almost at 7,000. The DMs and trolls get pretty crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure.
For the people that have 40,000, I don't know how they do it. I just
Yeah, I cannot imagine, to be honest with you. It's yeah, that's pretty wild. And kind of going off of that, you've obviously grown pretty rapidly, like you said, and we've kind of touched on. But if you could kind of go back and give yourself a piece of advice to when you first started trading, what would you tell yourself?
um, I would say don't be scared because, like I said, I was just too scared to trade Tesla in the beginning. I wouldn't even paper trade it, and I would see people make good money because it moves. Um, Paper trade way more. I thought every second and every trade I spent paper trading was like me losing money
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like I could be really trading, and then I would lose money, humble myself. I would definitely paper trade a lot more if I could go back.
Yeah.
Um,
And then
yeah,
what?
and I was gonna say every person that started like came in the Discord in the beginning, like Troy and a lot of others. Jeb, he was there I think before you, but we did Tesla. Doc, I was trading with Doc for like a year before he
Mm-hmm.
came in. It was all relationships, you know. Um, like Chop, I said, hey, our testimonial thing is open now. Someone go leave one. We don't have any testimonials. It looks like we don't know what we're doing. And then Chop went in there and posted, if you go into testimonials and scroll at the top, he posted DMs from him and I from like 2 years ago. And he was like, I commented on, yeah, he goes, I commented on a Zach Morris tweet, or he saw that I commented on his tweet about a tweet about something. I had no idea who Keanu Trades was, da da da. And thank God he did, because now I'm learning so much in his Discord. And this is from December 2020. He was asking about Blink, BLNK. And then
Mm-hmm.
once I opened the Discord, he was like, oh, I'm in. Because 18 months earlier, him and I DM'd. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I know, I'm going to sell this guy in 18 months. Like, it's just like, be consistently nice and kind. Like Gary Vee. It's all Gary Vee shit, dude. I love Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Like, be kind every time. I met Holly like 10 years ago in Hollywood at Comedy Club. Like, I never in a million years thought I'm gonna be close to this guy. I met so many comics, and once Holly got into finance podcast, I was like, dude, I want a jack of all trades Discord. Like, I had a channel that was based on sneakers, which didn't really take off. We've had a lot of channels that were like, oh, that didn't work, which is fine. But Holly's like, oh, dude, I love it, and he brought his podcast in. If he doesn't
Yep.
do his podcast and I don't follow him, we never talk again. And he's been great, so it's all relationships. I think if you burn bridges and stuff, like, you're gonna have a hard time helping people out. Like, I did a one-on-one the other morning. This guy scheduled paid me for 6 a.m. to 6:15. At 6:16, he's like, oh, you gotta go. I go, no, we can talk until, like,
Yeah.
you know so yeah, dude, always be nice and kind, and be willing to listen. Nobody likes a know-it-all. I can definitely come across as a know-it-all, but I'll tell you what, the reason why I am that way is because I get so many questions every day, and I genuinely just want people to know they can be empowered to, like I said, go to Mexico on your trading, like, vacation, like I said, remodel your kitchen. Um, the first thing I ever did making money was I bought my wife a MacBook. Her computer was shitty as hell, so shitty. And I was like, here you go. I had like 3 grand. Like, the first 3 grand that I made that was like free and clear and stuff. She's like, this is from trading stocks? I was like, yeah. She's like, no way. I was like, yeah, here you go. And she was just like floored. She's like,
That's
you
awesome.
should keep doing this, keep doing this. So,
Yeah, 100%. And
but dude,
so,
like I said, I gotta give you praise because you're 5 months in. I'll tell you right now, you're ahead of where I was 5 months in.
well,
Um,
it's a
dude,
long,
for
long way to
sure.
go. Long way to go for sure. That's why
It,
I'm kind of using this as one a way for this in the site to kind of almost teach myself too. Um, putting all this random stuff out there so that people can hopefully relate to what we're all going through right now. So that's kind of my goal at the end of the day too.
yeah, man, 100%. And I mean, we want to be welcoming. We've had people come in for 2 days and cancel, and I'm thinking like, okay, I don't know, I don't know what's going on in your life, but I really want people to tell us, hey, like you said, welcoming. I get so many DMs. People are just terrified to talk in the main channel, and I'm like, your question will be answered faster because, Garrity, Porter, Dodge, whoever is
Yeah,
going to jump in and say, this is the answer. Why do you use a CMA? Whatever it might be. Um, I cannot field every question. I just can't. That's why I'm terrified to have 20,000 followers. I don't know what that looks like. I feel a little bit spread thin trying to answer things now. So
and
I'm okay with
that's
not growing.
part
Like
of
I said,
it.
I think it's validation getting to
Yeah,
10,000, but
it's not something
we have to.
that you feel like you need to have. It's something that it's a
No,
nice to have.
mm-mm. Dude, it
Yeah.
felt so good that I started tweeting and I put people can only reply if I follow them or if they're mentioned or something like that.
Hmm.
That helped so much. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
and
I'm
God bless
sure.
everyone for people make a Twitter and want to learn, and I'm glad I was there. I have another Twitter that has no followers that I go on all the time. No one knows what it is because I want to be able to look at things,
Yeah,
tweet, reply. You know,
yeah, kind of
but
like
I'm
a
very
burner.
yeah a burner. Yeah, I'm so excited to see where Jordan, you, um, this guy next. There's so many people in the Discord that are just on the first chapters of this journey, and my goal is to really get all you guys like you're like, hey, I want my own channel, da da da. Not everybody's like that, but once you find your niche and your style, and then where it's at in 6 months, in a year, I'm really excited to see that because I've kind of found my spot.
Yeah,
Um, you're gonna incorporate patterns with something, and I just
100%.
can't wait to see where that's at and to be like, dude, I remember you were 5 months in, now you're 18 months in. Like, it's just like following maybe a local guy in the minor leagues,
Yeah,
and
that's
now
the
they're in
goal,
the big
man.
league.
That's what trying to do it all together. That's one thing that you've done an incredible job of is building that kind of culture in the Discord, which is kind of rare. Where we want everyone to succeed. We can all make money. You can all do well. It's not look at how much I made. It's how can we all make money, um,
Absolutely,
which is
absolutely. And
awesome
listen,
and rare.
yeah, yeah. It makes me feel good, man. I mean, I'm I'm blown away by the community we have. I used to make fun of people, I guess you could say, for people that would be like, I played Roadblocks, and I'm like, oh, your internet friends, cool. But I'm texting you if you're not in there, or Porter. I'm like,
Oh
where have
yeah,
you been, dude?
yeah,
He's like, oh, I've had meetings. I'm like, dude, you've had meetings. What are you talking about? Like, your internet
yeah.
friends need you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
If I'm not in right away in the morning or something at 9:30, I get like a text from a few people being like, "Is everything okay?" It's great.
yeah.
It's
My
great.
wife's like, who are these people?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
try to explain that one. Yeah.
yeah. We were having dinner and you called me and your you know Matrix name came up. She was like, "Who the fuck is that?" Don't worry about it. Um,
She's like, what is this secret
yeah,
life
yeah.
online that
Who is
you
this
may or may not know?
Keanu? Yeah.
It
Okay,
goes
so
into your IG. Your IG stories is good stuff, man. It's not just like, hey, numbers. We're a little community. I do want to get out there this summer, man. Just like one of these long
100%.
weekends or something. That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, 100%. We gotta do well. Then what we do is an actual like in person podcast. You, me, and Hallie. doing it here like on the
Yeah,
deck or something like that, and just getting all of us to shoot the shit for a bit.
I'm down, dude.
Yeah,
I down. I definitely want to do that. I need to find like some good rates. The travel rates have been crazy. Everybody's been
yeah,
cooped up for 2 years.
I
Dude,
know.
I used to play travel stocks every day. I'd be like, okay, where's flow going? Travel. I just felt like I felt like a ping pong ball. I felt like I can't keep up with um whatever sector is moving today. And so when I just was like, I'm gonna watch Facebook, Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, Spy, Amazon, sometimes Square.
Yeah, you definitely
But
have your core group of stocks that you really focus on.
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
And
love it.
after I did that, cut the noise out. Someone's like, "Oh, watch, there's Nvidia sweeps." Okay, I go to the chart. Is it in a pattern I like to play? If it is, maybe I'll play it. But the sweeps and stuff can be important, but imagine trying to follow all that. Why?
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
So,
Like you said, keeping it simple and the less is more essentially, and being good at those few things really well and kind of following those rules. Um,
mhm.
but
And
I got. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how I grew my account from small? This is how I did it. I thought to myself, I'm gonna take 2 to 3 trades for the entire week, and I'm gonna put my entire account on it because I'm at 700 bucks, 800 bucks, whatever I was at, 400, and I thought I just have to wait for the perfect pitch, right? I have to wait for the perfect trade, and I would see a triangle or whatever I liked, and I would say, this is damn near 100% conviction,
Yep.
and sometimes I'd enter the trade and you have to have a tight stop loss if you're doing that, right? So I'm talking like 10%,
Yeah.
12%. And sometimes I would get stopped out and it would fly. Fine, you mistimed it. But I would keep doing that. And okay, let's say $500 account, 10%, you're down 50 bucks. 10%, you're down 45. But by the third time of you finding, quote, the perfect trade, you're getting a 100%er. Now, instead of 400, now you're 800. So that's how I grew it from being small. You're basically full porting. I hate to say it, it's not best practice to full port, but if you lose that money, the next time you come up with 400 bucks, do it again. And the time it works, you're going to get those lessons. And now you're at 1,600 bucks, like you're going to have to cut back on your life. And dude, if you're spending that Dr. Dre song,
Yep.
um, been in the lab with a pen and the pad trying to get this damn label off. Okay. If the best part about working is you can't spend money if you're working. So if you're studying stocks and you're not going to fucking Dave and Buster's or wherever you go, you're in the lab working and you're not spending money. Period.
Yep. I love it. I love it. That's amazing. All right, I got one last question for you before we wrap it up, and that is because of being the degenerate pieces of shit that I am and what this podcast and site represents. What has been your biggest degenerate moment in trading options, good or bad?
Oh God. Well, good was that Friday I hit that it went 2,890%. It did not get to 3,000. It did not get to 2,900. It was 2,890. And I was sitting there trying to get the screenshot. I'm like, I'm only in this for the gain porn at this point.
Yeah,
Because I was so deep in the money that like you can't lose, So
I'm
it
gonna I'm
was
gonna put a little asterisk there that I think I called that play out in the Discord, but yeah, I did not leave a
oh
runner, so
God.
I got screwed.
I mean, okay, something that no one really ever told me about that I feel like I kind of latched onto is when contracts are cheaper later in the week, stocks run more. Just they're cheaper, people buy them more. So Mondays On Mondays, stuff doesn't move as much, and later in the week, it moves a lot more. That's just my personal volatility increases and shit moves more. So I used to call them on Twitter Tesla Fridays because Tesla would move on Fridays, Thursdays too. But anyway, I have been up 200% multiple times, didn't take profits countless times.
Yeah.
Especially on SPY same days. I'm in a runner and I'm like, oh, cool. I'm up 200%. So it should be up 800, right? And then you get some candle, you're 13%. You're like, oh, well, it's going to bump. Now I'm at a loss. I've done that before. Um, Definitely degen. But you get to a point, which is bad and good, of it's not even money anymore. It's just numbers. By the time you're green enough that like, you don't, I'm not going to say need the money, but it's like, it's not, it's not like your house payment, right?
Yeah.
It's just, it's a
Like you
video
said,
game.
you're not playing
So,
scared. It's just numbers on the screen where you can play it like that, and it's not tangible. And you need to kind of
exactly.
look at it like that, not being so kind of, yeah, like you said, scared or
Yeah.
timid.
Yeah. So people get PTSD, and I'm like, take this play. I only got one. I'm out. I'm like, what the? And I'm like, tell me about your trading. Like, and they're like, oh, I played Nvidia, I played whatever it was, and I lost this much percentage, I lost this much, and I'm like, okay, you can't move forward because you have PTSD, and it's normal. But my brother in a little league, I still remember going to his game, and he got hit with the baseball. It was like the first year that they pitched. He got hit hard, like in the back.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the season, he stepped in the batter's box and he was super far away. Okay. And as soon as the pitch left the pitcher's hand, he backed out of the box, like running. And he never shook it and didn't even sign up for Little League again.
It's like the yips.
That was it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's PTSD. Like, have you been in a car accident?
No,
Okay, well, I have
we don't have
four
cars here on the
sisters.
East Coast.
Okay, so the getting back into a car after your car accident is terrifying.
I'm
You are
sure.
driving like an old person. Um, I still remember driving and hearing a tire screech. Just someone, they put on the gas pedal a little too hard, and you're like, oh, like you're just so
Yeah, you get
hypersensitive
spooked.
and da da da. You're spooked. So it gets like that. I suggest seriously EMDR, which is for PTSD. That's where you look at a light bar going back and forth. Those in like cartoons, they would have a stop pocket watch going back and forth.
Yep.
Okay, it's like hypnosis, but it's EMDR. It's for your PTSD. There's different PTSDs like that, like tapping, all this stuff from the yips, which you're familiar with, which is good. But
Yeah.
it's getting back in the saddle again. And people have these massive losses percentage wise, and they're unwilling to get multiple contracts after that. And I'm like, you need a paper trade, man. Like, people need to paper trade. And yes, there's a delay. Yes, TOS has a delay. Like, a contract is something I get in, I'm big red, like could be 18% or up 18% right away. And I'm like, that's not right. So I'm looking forward to using the Webull paper trading. I hope it's more accurate. I don't know. I haven't really done it yet.
Yeah.
But we should be taking practice swings every day, and that's paper trading. So I think it's vital. We've been using blue chip a lot, which is good because it's just easy. But I really want to get into the Webull paper trading a lot more. If you're gonna load your account with $3,000, and you're like, what should I do? I'd like open up an account now. I'm not gonna say names. I told someone in the Discord that blew up their account, how much you want to put in? He's like, I'm gonna put in $4,000. I'm like, buy 4 shares of Tesla or 5, whatever that comes out to. I think it's 4, right? Because $800, and paper trade. And the next time you get paid, maybe you'll have another $4,000. Great, from what it sounds like. Put in another $4,000. You're still paper trading, right? Now it's at 2 months or whatever it is. Now you have $8,000, and you've been paper trading for over 2 months. I promise you, it will go better because you need a buffer with options all the time, at least once or twice a week. I buy something that goes against me, and I have to average in, and I get out on a pop even or small green. I do that all the time. don't alert that because people will wreck their ass,
Mm-hmm.
but I do it because I'm like, shit, it's going against me. All right, well, I'm down 20% or 30%. Let me double my position. Now I'm only down 15. Now when it spikes up on this candle, which is gonna fake out because now it's in a downtrend and I'm in calls, I cut even. There you go. I do that like three
Yeah.
times a week.
Yeah.
It's just managing your trade.
I love it. I love it.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
that's amazing. I mean, this went a lot longer than I expected, which is awesome. And it was unreal conversation. But yeah, this is definitely going to be something I'm going to be having you bother you about to come back on and asking a shit ton of questions and
Cool, man.
kind of getting inside the
Like I said,
brain of Keanu.
I don't want to be a know-it-all. I do not want to be a know-it-all. I I really want to convey what I've learned, and I really want to empower people. And if our members start their own discords and get a following, I would just be so proud of them too.
Keanu Trades, a legend, a goat. Appreciate you, Daddy. We'll see you in
Yes, sir.
the voice tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir. We'll do it.
All right,
Later.
later, boss.